Get up on the floor, dancing all night long. Get up on the floor, dancing to the break of dawn. Get up on the floor, dancing to the break of dawn. Get up on the floor, dancing all the time, but baby you on my mind, and I don't know why, but the feeling is fine. Can't you see, honey, you are for me? Oh, we were meant to be dancing.
That was Aaron Smith with Dancin'. Welcome to the Rise Weekly Review for March 15th through March 22nd, 2021. On Wednesday, a Riverdale man was struck in a fatal hit and run in Lansing. 62-year-old Otis Dorsey was crossing Torrance near the LA Fitness near the 17,000 block of Torrance around 10 p.m. when a black Chevy Tahoe SUV struck him. Dorsey was taken to Community Hospital in Munster, where he passed away on Friday. The driver had fled the scene but was found through cooperative efforts by Lansing and Hammond police. He was only identified as a 36-year-old man from Calumet City and is currently in custody pending charges. On Saturday, residents held a vigil on 83rd and Yates to honor the memory and call for help in identifying the murders of Guadalupe Lupita Lopez. Lupita was killed during the shooting in South Chicago. On November 20th, 35-year-old Lupita was driving on the 8300 block of Yates around 8:30 p.m. when she was shot after someone began opening fire on her vehicle. She was taken to the University of Chicago where she passed away from a head wound. Family and residents are asking anyone with information that can help identify the shooters to please come forward. A grainy video image of the speeding vehicle has been shared on social media along with a computer-enhanced image. Anyone with information on the shooting is asked to contact Chicago detectives at 312-747-8272. During the week, several stories broke of missing area residents. On Tuesday, reports came out about 88-year-old Robert Rob Mays, who was reported missing from South Shore. Mays was last seen on Thursday, the 18th, near the 7600 block of South Kingston. Mays suffers from a medical condition and is in need of treatment. He is described as 6 foot 1 inches and weighs 200 pounds with brown eyes, gray hair, and dark brown complexion. Anyone with information on Mays' disappearance is asked to contact Chicago Police at 312-747-8274. On Saturday, local area residents rallied to share information on a missing 13-year-old girl from Hegewisch. 13-year-old Cassandra Avila was reported missing Saturday night. Residents throughout the area shared information on her disappearance throughout the area. In welcome news, by Sunday, reports surfaced that she was found and returned home. A federal judge on Wednesday sentenced an East Chicago man for a 2017 kidnapping in Calumet City. 41-year-old Brian Protho was sentenced to 38 years in prison for kidnapping and assaulting a child. The incident occurred in December of 2017 on 153rd Street of Burnham in Calumet City, a block down from the Paradise Lounge. The child was walking down the sidewalk on her way home from school with two friends at the time. She was 2 blocks away from her home when they departed ways. During the final 2 blocks of the walk, she was followed by a red Ford Explorer, and as she began to walk faster, Proto jumped out and grabbed her, dragging her into an SUV and then drove away. He reportedly sexually assaulted her after threatening to kill her. She was able to escape after the assault and flagged down a passing vehicle. A surveillance camera on a nearby home captured the kidnapping. The FBI is currently trying to determine if Protho had other victims they were not aware of, and are asking anyone with information to call 312-421-6700. On Thursday, various news outlets reported about a fire on the Upper East Side a few blocks from Wolf Park. Firefighters were called around 12:30 p.m. to a home located at 11135 South Green Bay. According to reports, the fire started at the rear of the home. None of the people occupying the building were reported injured, however, the family dog was killed in the fire. On Sunday evening, South Shore Drive was blocked for a few hours from a vehicle crash. The crash was reported around 10 p.m. on the 8100 block of South Shore Drive. The vehicle reportedly overturned after running into a tree. No information was provided on the condition of the driver or any passengers. In national news, throughout the week, reports have been coming in about an increasing surge in migration, including of minors from the U.S.-Mexico border. The surge comes as reports describe the increasing poverty and economic inequality in many Latin American countries as a result of the COVID pandemic. The number of unaccompanied minors in U.S. custody in recent weeks has begun growing, with conditions in many facilities facing overcrowding. The renewed surge in minors is viewed as partially due to a change in policy from the Biden administration. The Trump administration refused to allow entry to unaccompanied minors, creating a humanitarian crisis in many bordering Mexican towns. While many young people have been making the journey unaccompanied, some migrant parents who are stuck in Mexican border towns have been sending their children across without them to escape the growing violence. In other national news, spring break crowds in Florida have turned into what some describe as riots. Larger than normal crowds of partygoers have descended on Florida cities like Fort Lauderdale, due in part to the lax COVID 19 restrictions. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis has continued to relax restraints on businesses despite the threat of COVID 19 that has resulted in the deaths of 33,000 Floridians. Florida currently has no statewide mask rules, limits on business capacity, or other health restrictions. According to reports, people have been partying in Florida streets as violence has erupted in many venues. Miami Beach police have reported over 1,000 arrests with over 80 guns seized. Video was shown throughout the week of riot police engaging spring break partygoers. Miami Beach officials have attempted to institute a curfew, but police officials have still struggled to contain the crowds in many cases. In other local news, in Northwest Indiana over the week, residents held a protest to demand more transparency about the environment near Wolf Lake after at least 20 birds and waterfowl were found dead. A group of protesters gathered on Friday to demand more information on the deaths. Reports released on Friday showed that the birds did not die from avian chloria, but further testing was underway on whether a virus or toxin was the cause. Hammond's mayor, Thomas McDermott, released a public statement saying the city's Department of Environmental Management was testing the water and soil near the lake. The statement claimed that the current findings showed that data gathered showed that the findings met standards and posed no environmental risks. Some area Indiana residents remain unconvinced. A report released on Thursday showed that Indiana leads the nation in toxic chemical releases according to the federal EPA. The report showed that Indiana had 881 toxic release inventory facilities, with four of the nation's biggest producers of toxic chemicals located in northwest Indiana. During the week, a report by the Chicago Crusader began uncovering the threat faced by local area residents who lost income during the pandemic and are now faced with rising property taxes and delinquency. The report described the challenges facing many residents in Chicago and the disproportionate effect it is having on communities of color. According to the report, about 16,591 residential properties are delinquent in Chicago. Residents in predominantly black areas have been highly impacted. Chicago's 10th ward, which is predominantly Latino, but also has a large black population north and white population further south, has been hit particularly hard. According to the report, there have been over 1,442 delinquent properties reported in the 10th ward, the highest for any predominantly Latino ward in Chicago. On Sunday, groups tied to the Chicago Democratic Socialists of America held an area protest over demands for control of federal CARES Act funding. The groups organized this protest that began at Jane Addams School on Chicago's east side and held a temporary street blockade on 106 before taking the protest by the Alderwoman's home. The action follows a week of action by Democratic Socialists who have been attempting to position candidates for the upcoming municipal elections in 2023. The action on Sunday was supported by many local area groups, including the Bridges Puentes Collective, Southeast Youth Alliance, Petco Coalition, and United Neighbors of the 10th Ward. The protesting groups called on Alderwoman Garza to vote to allocate the next round of funding on what they say are the places needed most. Congress provided Chicago with $1.2 billion in funding for pandemic relief. However, reports suggest that only $470 million was spent by the city, with 60% of funding going to the Chicago Police Department. The city reported a $700 million budget shortfall in 2020. And finally, ComEd and People's Gas are offering one-time credits of up to $500 in April for customers struggling financially during the pandemic. To qualify, customers have to be at or below the 300% federal poverty level. The chart on the page shows the poverty rate guidelines. This amounts to $38,640 for an individual or up to $79,500 for families of four. For the ComEd assistance, you can apply at www.comed.com/payment assistance or by calling 1-800-334-7661. People's Gas is sending a letter to customers with information, but they can also call 1-866-556-6001 to learn more. And that ends our weekly review for March 15th through March 22nd, 2021. Thank you for joining us for this week in review. Peace.